He is audible though. Stam. I'll take PY by chat. Thank you. Should I wait to Michal? Noam? Should I wait to Michal? Should I start?
Um, Noam, everything okay? You ready? Okay, you can start.
Okay. There are problems in every community. The question in this debate is whether the interest of the community is harmed too much by the policy by letting the police interrupt our day-to-day life as an anarchist community, as a free town. We believe that the framing is that the interruption and the entrance of every time that the police are getting inside is now temporarily, and in order to make it like the goal of the thing, like to stop drugs anywhere and having a lot of order in this community to the long run, they have to go and be a lot more inside the community. They have to bring to go for a longer period of time with a lot of presence of police in this population. We believe this raises a huge problem in this debate. We believe that cooperation with the police is just harming the freedom and the day-to-day life of the community in a large scale that harms our behavior in society. One, it's fear and hateful. We believe this is just breaking the principle that we as a community stand for. We are anarchists. We don't want the interruption of other people of our life. This brings fear to our to what we are having in society, because there is a strange body outside of this committee that just runs around the streets looking at me, judging me, and can capture me anywhere and make me obey his rules that I haven't consented to. These are the police. They just don't understand me because I'm like minorities and things like that. They are different people. They see me as different and they have stereotypes of me. So they will be more aggressive because I'm different. That it just makes me scared all the time by the people surrounding me and making me do these things. We believe this is just making us feel, secondly, that there are a lot of limits over our life because we are surrounding to the privacy of our day-to-day life and letting other people control my life. This is something that we are just against it as a community by the definition of like the info slide and things like that. It harms us very much. The solution for these things is just stop cooperating with the police, because it says that we are sticking to our principles. It says that we are able to function alone in situation and be anarchist and avoid the presence of other people in our lives. It means that we're capable of taking care of our own destiny and be an anarchist. We don't need the interruption of everyone else. We believe that they might say in this motion that it harms our security and things like that. It harms the security that the police are there. But we believe that we have a capability to make ourselves this change of our day-to-day as a strong and dependent and community, because we are able to be united to these goals and be together, so we can like do not protests but campaigns and things like that. It means that we are able to make like a community presence of the things that we want, and like trying to convince people not to do these things by ourselves with a large group of people in order to make a change. It means that the narratives that you're growing on in the streets of this community are just the way that we want the world to act upon. This is the way that we're against the ruling regime and government of these things. We believe that we're able as a community to not make it die in a way, because the community as an anarchist are based on the principles that we are standing on. It's when we are just avoiding these things, we'll be just like any other community and stop being the as this free town community thing. This is just not going to be different than any other community, and we're just going to lose the principle and identity that we are built on these things. Before I'll get to like the impacts and waiting, I'll take first, yeah.
Hi. OG and panel alike, note that cooperation does not necessarily mean submission, but securing a good faith and a good relationship with a system that allows us to exist through good faith on their part.
Daniel will answer that as well, but we believe that it is submission because they're invading our privacy in the day-to-day life. This is the main thing that we're against in by like taking other people's commands and things like that. Even if we're cooperating, they are able to inflict on us power that we just don't want it to be existing, and we're able to get it in both sides of the house. We just don't want to come to cooperate. That we are having good faith in our side as well, and we are able to be independent on these manners. We believe that we are, as anarchists, just prioritize our freedom and principle over security and lifestyle that could be a better in their side in this debate. Because the way that it inflicts on me on the day-to-day life in a stronger manner, because we're anarchists and we're different people than the Western people that we are today. It's something that means more to them. It harms them for a longer time and for a deeper manner than seeing on the streets occasionally people doing drugs and things like that, even if it is something that worries them. But we believe that Denmark is just a really social country. It means that we don't even care about the benefits for my lifestyle that could be way bigger with like healthcare and education and things like that. The thing that I prioritize is my anarchist beliefs. That means that I'm living in a in this commune of not letting anyone interrupt me and give me the benefits that I can get because they prioritize my freedom more, because I can go and just live in other places and things like that. It means that my freedom is more important than the benefit. Secondly, we believe that the security that we have over our life is coming from the control of ourselves and not other people as this community. And this is my interest. It comes from our side of the house of the security and not other people's security that maybe ensures not getting in like bad behaviors, but we are just scared all the time. So the security we have is gone. We believe that lastly, and maybe most importantly, this is actually the biggest interest of the group, is to stay this group. It's just something that won't happen in their side of the house when your survival is just logically advanced before every benefits that they can give to the society. Better security for them, better benefits of lifestyle to them. It's just not going to happen because it won't be a group, because it's just going to be like any other neighbor in Denmark. We don't want this thing to happen. We want to keep our identity. We want to keep being against like the government and things like that. We don't want the interruption of any other places. For all these reasons, glad to propose.
Speech, and I'm happy to call leader of opposition. Here.
Hello. Woo, woo. I'm audible. Cool. Panel, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. 2 cases from OO. Firstly, about legitimization, and if the commune will be known as a drug den, we will just have less legitimization to exist and worse quality of members. Secondly, the government and police will give us just more leeway to live our lives as we want in the things that matter to us if we cooperate on this matter. Before that, 2 main things to OG. Note that the motion states that we need to cooperate, and it has no time frame mentioned. We believe it's possible to claim that the community can stop the cooperation when the problem subsides. More so, note that we agree that freedom is important to the community, but every community restricts its members to an extent, even an anarchist one. We are sure that OG agrees that acts like murder or human trafficking are absolutely frowned upon in this anarchist community. Ergo, the dichotomy that OG gives us of a yay rules versus a nay rules society is just wrong. Anarchists are against institutional rules. We believe that no community wants to raise kids with drug addicts in the streets, and as we will explain, simply the community is unable at this time to solve the problem on their own. Before I get to my speech, to my point, 2 points, another point. We believe that the things that is absolutely important to the community is just the fact that they're a community. They're just a group of people who want to raise your kids and live their lives in a happy and safe environment. And we believe that this is just the reason why our cases work. Firstly, about legitimization. Firstly, the commune would just become a drug den without more police cooperation. Why? For 2 main reasons. Mainly because it's hard to throw drug dealers away without police. These people are usually more armed than your common person and more prone to violence if they're being forcibly removed from a street, right? Which basically means that if the community tries to do that on their own, we just have more confrontation with people who are just likely to be more prone to beat me or to threaten me away. And secondly, we would have the commune get kind of like a bad name for that kind of confrontation on the streets. like Amsterdam has for like being kind of a drug den, which means that more people who like drugs would come for the sake of the drugs, and it's going to be harder for us to spot them away, which means this is a problem that's only going to keep growing if the police is not going to get involved. The police has more tools to enforce drug dealers leaving the community with less confrontation because they have more threatening power, which means we just have more quiet people leaving instead of just loud confrontations in the street. Secondly, if they are not going to leave, this would negatively impact the community with two mechanisms. Firstly, we would have just more drug activity on the street, which means a less safe and more unseemingly looking street, which basically means that less people outside the community would want to come there to buy their food or just walk there or like kind of get a feel for it, may decide they want to move there themselves, which means that the area is just generally going to be seen as more hostile. Think of the bad neighborhoods in Tel Aviv today. Which basically means that the government sees the area as mismanaged and unseemly and less likely to give them, and thus the government is just less likely to give them the community leeway in the commune to make policy for it, the stuff that actually matters for it. Secondly, we believe that the commune would just get a name as an unseemly place by the public opinion. Even if I've never been there, I know that the commune is a place I don't want my kids walking around it, which means that the public would be less sympathetic for the commune's cause and call for self-actualization and self-governing in that sense. Secondly, we believe that this would strongly negatively impact the community. We would see less legitimization for the community to exist from the state and the public opinion, which means just less of a chance of the commune having autonomy in the long run. Secondly, we see that potential members that we would value would be turned away by a high movement, and worse members would join their stead. Now, what kind of members do we want in our commune? Probably people who are A, non-violent, B, very cooperative, and 3, have a unique value that they add. People like there are carpenters, doctors, farmers, people who can help us to manage the community well. These are people who can choose where they live. They have options. And if our option doesn't seem right to them, if they don't feel that they can raise their kids safely there, if they feel that they're going to go out in the street and a junkie is going to jump at them, of course they're going to want to live in a better neighborhood of Copenhagen. Why wouldn't they? Second case. Before I get into it, I'll take a POI. Yeah. Anyone? Shoot.
We think that the community has a higher value for freedom because it has already existed in this state. Additionally, the info tells you
that freedom also means freedom from drugs, freedom from traffickers walking on my street, freedom from my kids stepping on needles, freedom to grow crops without being afraid that a junkie is going to piss on them on the main street. Freedom means a restriction of the things that limit me, and we absolutely believe that drug use is a limiting factor and not a free one. We have received no analysis whatsoever from OG as to why this isn't the case, and we'll give you plenty in our next speech. Let's get into our second case. The government and the police will simply give us more leeway if we show them that we are willing to cooperate on the things that matter to them and not matter to us that much. A, why is the community reliant on the goodwill of the government? Because we live in its state, right? The government of Denmark controls the areas that we self-govern, right? And in every fucking second, the police can come in and just evict anyone not living under a contract, or just say that the fact that we don't allow police to walk in the neighborhood and just, patrol it is a criminal activity, and they can crack down on us at any moment. The reason they don't do that is because they show us goodwill, because we show them goodwill as well. This is a positive relationship. Now, it's likely that this issue is really important to the country and the state, and not really important to us. Why is that true? Firstly, drug cleanup is a huge political tool. A lot of politicians write the ticket of, I'm going to clean our state from hard drugs. No, this is Scandinavia, so like not pot or whatever, like heroin and meth and stuff like that. A lot of politicians use that as a tool to gain more public support. And so if we show politicians that they're able to gain that public support from us, it's probably really important for them. Secondly, a lot of police forces around the world see drug cleanup as just a structural and like traditional means of showing that they are working for the people. On the other hand, we believe that like, apart from a bit of recreational pot, we have no value of having drug trade in the commune. We also believe that it strictly limits our ability to act in a free way when we have more like drug addicts in the community, when we are self-addicted to these substances. More so than that, we think that it's likely that if we cooperate in this, the government would give us more leeway in what's important to us. we would show a good faith in cooperation in something that's important to them, and B, showing understanding of what is important to the state and willing to compromise, which just means more leeway in state government for us, which means just more self-actualization and less policy activity in other things. We would see less eviction of people living without contracts as a lifestyle because that's how the community wants to run its life, but it's actually not really legal. Secondly, we would see less destruction of products that are not regulated and sold within the community, like unpasteurized milk or fresh eggs that are sold in an unregulated manner. As the community right now wants to sell them, the government right now turns a blind eye for that. And in tomorrow's world, where we show them good faith, this continues to happen, not so much in God's world. For all these reasons, please oppose. Thank you.
Shit.
Fine.
I will begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Let us clarify two things that are apparent from the info slide. One, the ability to stop the drugs was temporary and not permanent after the police incursion. Two, the commune has already resisted police incursions multiple times. This means two things that are in rebuttal to OO. First of all, the community. The community. The police mechanisms need more access to the community to be actually effective for a long time. Second of all, in the status quo, the government doesn't care so much about this as to send so much force to overwhelm the community. This means that OO's case about being a drug den and politicians wanting to tear him up is not really severe likely. This means because this has already been seen as a drug den, and the amount of force required to penetrate it is probably very big. The amount of backlash from the general public seeing the amount of force required would be very big, and politicians have already analyzed that it isn't in their favor to do such a thing. Okay, now, my case will explain to you, first of all, why police activity needs to be more intrusive to have the effect that OO requires, and secondly, what are the values of the community. We think there isn't one actor in this motion, there are two, and the interests of the police are very important here. Okay, so let's first of all explain why the police need to be so powerful. First of all, the police needs intel to know where the drug traffickers are, to know where everyone is, to know how to arrest them, to know if what kinds of drugs are being traded in this commune. They need intel from the commune. What does this mean? One, this means they have greater leverage over the commune. Now they know their structures. Now they know where they can hide. Now they know how to operate within it in a more efficient way. Secondly, this means that because they have more leverage, they now can impose a greater amount of force upon them. We think that it is in the interest of the police to act forcefully because the police want to appear as the ones who clean up drugs. The police want to appear successful. They want this for funding. They want this because police officers are taught that they are the ones that need to fight crime. And we think that as long as the police are within the commune, they have an interest to try and overextend. Why is this true? We think that there are a lot of criminal activities in the commune that are not hard drugs. We think that light drugs that the commune isn't opposed to. We think that like OO said, unpasteurized milk and businesses that aren't open with licenses is something that the community wants, but that are actively opposed to how the police view themselves and how they will act. Why will they act this way? Because the top-down management of the police has an interest to show that they are forceful, that they are good, especially if they have seen in past years that this commune has been opposed to them and did not take them forth. We think that continuing to operate with the police will, like I said, by the info slide, require them to come in again and again and again. We think that to do this effectively, and not just, we think that to do this effectively, usually it requires it to be a day-to-day activity. Why? Because drug traffickers can hide very easily. They're often working alone. If the police come in just once per year, they can like estimate when it is, see the police are moving towards them, and flee and return when the police go away. We think that because of this needs to be very high activity. So now, why is the interest? What are the interests of the commune, and why we win based on them? We think that first of all, like davidi told you, these are not mostly regular people. We think that they have a very high, fear and and are already very aggressive towards forms of power that are structured, that are big, that are bureaucratic, like the police. We think that the moment someone will get arrested for like trading light drugs, which the community likes, there will be not only resistance to the police, like we said before, but also a much larger amount of chaos, because the actual people within the community will be very angry about this large injustice that has now happened in what they consider is their safe haven. Why we don't care about legitimacy? First of all, notice that the entire case of legitimacy is outside legitimacy. Inherently, it weighs below what we think is important. But OO also tries to tell you that because outside legitimacy diminishes, we get less support from the government. Before I answer this, by Cheney.
Yes. Do you think that the drugs market creating the same hierarchy as you don't like in the police?
Okay, first of all, let's analyze a bit about how we can actually reduce the drug market. We think that in this anarchist community, we have a very high emphasis on community, on communal structures, on communal activities. We think that this is highly effective because, one, the drug users are part of the community and they are likely to go to submit more to a force they know and they like more than to a foreign thing they don't like. Secondly, we think that they can organize very efficiently. They can create safe houses. They can create places which do encourage. Thirdly, I think they can act against the people they deem as bad. Against drug dealers, they can act quickly if they find this important. We think that even if they don't get all drugs out, we think that acting against drug dealers from within the community is very efficient. So we diminish the point of OO that tells us that legitimization comes from cleaning up the streets, because we are not that transparent. Even if we can clean up the streets a little, and we get a better legitimization. The government already gives us legitimization, so this is not a major delta. We think that these people are highly idealistic. Because they are highly idealistic, they view the outside as bureaucratic and bad and stupid, and think that we have shown you that we match with their interest. OG.
Can you hear me? Wonderful. I'll be starting in 3, 2, 1. One rebuttal, it's more likely that the anarchists just don't like the police, but themselves are rather just like hippies who just want to rule without borders and just live in a disconnected life far away from the bounds of society. We think that the characterization that these people are necessarily violent doesn't make any sense and has barely been explained. I'm going to give one case and then I'm going to go through two wings. My case is mainly about the good of the kids in the commune. Now, the commune spans several streets in Copenhagen. Therefore, it's likely to hold an array of families with children. It's likely that the drugs being used in Freetown Christiania are also heavier drugs. If the community has decided to actively cooperate with drug enforcement before in order to solve a problem as anarchists, it means that they have decided in advance that they're willing to give up their core principle of freedom because they saw a problem that is larger than involving drug enforcement. Now, what would likely cause that, among other things, is children being exposed to drugs. Children being exposed to drugs is detrimental for their health and their future, even if they're not the ones taking it. It's being exposed to people with blank looks in their eyes who don't do anything else. It's being exposed to people who are suffering from flesh-eating bacteria, from AIDS, from addiction, from being underweight, from their teeth falling out and their skin being torn apart by due to the sicknesses that come with it. It's being exposed to hardened criminals and drug dealers, dangerous types, and from violence. Note that there's also a chance of these children accidentally stepping on a needle and dying from an overdose because that needle contained fentanyl. Fentanyl can kill you in under a milligram. This also means that the parents of the children are exposed to drugs, and it's detrimental for the health of the kids as well. If there's a massive drug issue and it's not being taken care of, it's likely that the kids have managed to survive their childhoods, will grow up to be drug users, and will be raised by drug users, since it's all around them all the time. Kids learn a lot from their parents. They look at them as their primary taker. From the one hand, you get an absent parent who's unable to raise their children properly, who's unable to give the values to their children, who's unable to give them a life that they deserve. But on the other hand, you also get a bad example. You get children that see their parents taking drugs and maybe might want to take these drugs themselves. Children taking drugs, I don't need to explain how fucking detrimental that is. They're likely children don't understand the long-term repercussions of drugs. It's likely that a stranger is offering them some happy candy in the street in order for them to kind of feel better about themselves. And next thing you know, they are addicted. They can't seem to stop themselves, and their health is at stake. I'll take OG.
We have already analyzed that the people within the commune have already chosen to gain a lower standard of living by living in the commune. You think they like educating their children in this way to the right ideas?
So we disagree. No, it's okay. We disagree. We think that if that commune, as you said and we agree, has its freedom as its primary principle, why would they decide from the get-go to ever cooperate with drug enforcement? The only reason that they'll have to see that is that they see that using drugs and having the amount of drugs that flow through that community takes away more freedom than what the drug enforcement ever will. This brings me into my first weighing. Why freedom from drugs is more freedom than complete freedom with drugs to the people of Freetown Christiania. Anarchists, generally speaking, see freedom as their core principle. We agree with OG's characterization. They don't want to be controlled, and they want to be able to do whatever they want at all times. An addiction to hard drugs is likely, as I explained, and it's way more controlling of your life than a small cooperation with drug enforcement, which isn't as significant as OG wants you to believe. You're literally dependent on your drug dealer and on your drug. You're being controlled in every way from the inside out. You can't think straight, you can't stand up straight, and you can't do anything when the drugs are within you or when you're starting to detox from the drugs. It means that, in fact, I am being ruled by drug dealers and cartels who use my addiction as a way to control my life. They can tax me by making the drugs cost more. They know I'll pay because I'm addicted and my body is literally torturing me with nausea, with headaches, with blood pressure, with flesh-eating bacteria, into either keeping to take the drugs or torturing me when I stop taking the drugs because I'm starting to detox. Now, an addiction to drugs can easily be paralleled with slavery. Obviously, an anarchist's fucking nightmare. You're at the mercy of your master. In this example, let's say heroin. It beats you. It kills you from the inside out. And the second you try to get away, it only beats you harder. Now, not only that, but it also takes away the self-actualization, which looks like a free market within the commune. Drugs like heroin and cocaine are manufactured by massive drug cartels that are usually not local. They're manufactured overseas by cartels who have massive amount of governmental power abroad and now inside my community as well. This means that, in fact, we are not in control of our commune, but the Pablo Escobars of the world are in control of my drug cartel. Instead of trading neighborhood grown weed, instead of loving my community, the people who are actually controlling my community is some Colombian super rich asshole who is deciding how much I'm going to pay for the thing that I'm literally dependent on. But more than that, if the problem is, as I said, if the problem is bad enough for an anarchistic society to freely choose to cooperate with drug enforcement once, it probably means that they find this problem significant enough to be dealt with through drug enforcement. Yonatan has explained to you why it's super important for the community self-actualization and for the long-term span of that community to cooperate with drug enforcement. But more than that, Yonatan has explained to you why that cooperation doesn't need to be massive. It means keeping them in our back pocket. It means yes, keeping them as a friend. As an anarchistic community, we're not bound by anything. It means that we are also not bound by our own principles just because they're principles, but we are allowed to use the tools that we have at hand to deal with the things that we deem important. If our community, which doesn't have a clear leadership by its anarchistic nature, this means that individuals individual people choose the well-being of its people, the health and well-being of its children, the death and destruction of the mental and physical wholeness as significant enough to take a step back from their core principle of freedom, it means that they find it important enough, that they find it significant enough to actually take a step back and do cooperate with drug enforcement. So, for the reasons that Yonatan explained, that they gain more legitimization, which means that that the government will be that the public court of opinion will decide to push less of law enforcement within Freedom Christiania, because the government will be more inclined to give leeway and to accept Freedom Christiania as an anarchistic commune, and because of the fact that we have seen Freedom Christiania deem drug enforcement as drug use as a problem big enough to give up their primary principle because they know that it takes away more freedom, we're glad to oppose.
In 3, 2, 1. We're going to argue that this cooperation with police does go naturally against the community's anarchist values. I think it's pretty obvious because they are anarchists. They are opposed to the rule of the land. So, and the police are the body in charge of enforcing the rule of the land. So it's basically goes against the values pretty naturally. And in order to do that, in order to go against their values in such a way, they need to clear some sort of a tipping point. They need the situation need to get that much worse. It needs to get to a certain low bar in order for them to betray their values in such a way. And in order to keep cooperating, this tipping point need to still be cleared, which we don't have here. First, we're going to explain why the drug problem isn't going to be as severe after we stop cooperating with the police in our world, isn't going to be as severe as OO describes, meaning we are mitigating their case. And then we're going to explain why this keep in touch with the drug enforcement will greatly hurt that community. So why would the drug problem won't be as severe in our world? They already suffered the consequences. They felt it very, very on their body. They felt it was very real. And very it was very like they felt the consequences in real life. They didn't hear about them, they didn't see them, they fucking felt it. It affected them directly, which makes it that much more offensive towards them. Without permanent drug enforcement, the community will be incentivized to try to keep it down, the drug problem down themselves after we halted it before. We already halted it. Next, in the future, when we stop keeping in touch with drug enforcement, have incentive to keep it low and again, so the consequences. So they'll use their own tools inside the community in order to keep the drug problem down, meaning there will be backlash, there will be shaming, there even be inner enforcements. The leader will put, I don't know, Pashkavil against it, I don't know, and they'll try to enforce it themselves because they have great power within their own community. They have power of enforcement because they are a close community opposed to policing. It's deterring others to use because they saw the consequences in their eyes. They saw people maybe pass out in the streets or die or overdose, and it will be deterring others to use after we mitigated the problem. And lastly, if we stop with people who stopped in that process, used and then stopped, they felt it on their body, and they'll probably not going to go back to the same sort of hard use, maybe smoke a bit of weed, but nothing more than that. So why would cooperating will affect our community greatly in a negative way? First, we're going to say it's greatly divisive. This community is very likely incredibly united. They're incredibly a closed community, like Orthodox Jews in Israel, whatever. They're very codependent. It's a very close community. They only have themselves. They don't have the outsiders. They're opposed to being in touch, sort of playing along with the outside of the state. So they're very codependent. And they also have very inherent trust in the leaders, which they again trust far more than the state they are in. This means division will harm the community very greatly because it's so volatile to the divisions. They're so volatile, like they being united inside the community is so critical to the community's existence. And we think it's in their great interest to have great division. Why would long-term corporations will cause much more division? Long-term corporations will cause much more division, because they inherently disagree with such action. So as long as you do it more, it obviously will be more potent. It got so bad they had to cooperate. They had some sort of an excuse to cooperate inside the community. They went against their principles, but they had some sort of an excuse to do it. Meaning, but it's not going to be. We just like showed it's not going to be as justified in the future. So they don't have that excuse to do it. It's still not fully agreeable, probably. Even in the first place, calling the police or calling enforcement wasn't that agreeable, probably, in the community, meaning it's very divisive short term. But maybe people can forget about it. Maybe they can let it go. But if you keep doing it in the long term, it's going to be far more divisive. People are going to understand it's a permanent state and they're going to of the community, and they're going to get much more frustrated than people that were against it in the first place. And also, naturally, there is more police interference just in general. I mean, more privacy. They're gonna invade their privacy more. They're gonna arrest the leaders more, arrest members more, and etc. All this police activity, and it's obviously going to be very divisive and unpopular at some point when people see the consequences. The impacts are that the community will get some sort of divided between the people who cooperated and the people who don't or are against it, and that's greatly hurtful to the community because it is so volatile. And united front in such community is very important. Yes, I will take.
The commune doesn't have a leader. This means that the initial cooperation with drug enforcement was a purely people-led effort. They viewed the problem as super significant, and they don't have the enforcement tools to deal with criminals. You can't shame a drug dealer away. You can use drug enforcement.
I believe, if most people are going to be against it, which apparently enough people were to take action, they can absolutely stop drug dealing. They can, I don't know, snitch. Obviously, we believe a community has a leader, like every community on earth, but they have probably mechanisms for governance because they don't trust the government to do it. Okay, second point is the police are going to use it in order to infiltrate the community and try to tear them apart. Why is that? Because police has a short-term sort of incentive, some sort of short-term mission to prevent the drugs. They had to focus on it. Most of the resources and they had current sources on the drug use, but so that was their short-term mission. And once it was solved, once it's mitigated, they have a long-term mission. First, police are, by definition, are the ones who force the rule of the law. And this community, by definition, opposes it. So police will want to tear this community apart. They will want to hurt this community from the inside. The police interest is the community no longer existing because it's the police sees these people in bad light because they oppose its central mission. They oppose the police themselves, and they pretty much ignore the rules the police are trying to enforce. So what would the police do if they had a more long-term, more time in that community? They're gonna have more agent-handler relationship with the people. They're gonna start convincing them to go against people who broke other rules of the country, probably like the Shabak does in the Chativa Yehudit. They have more sources, they have more power, people are used to them, so they're gonna start focusing on things other than the drugs to enforce and to hurt inside the community, and they're likely will want to tear the community apart. Thank you. Other than the drugs to enforce and to hurt inside the community, and they're likely will want to tear the community apart. Thank you.
Thank you very much for an incredible speech, and happy to call member of opposition, Jenny number 1.
Am I audible? Okay. If you will hear birds, I'm outside, so sorry. I will start in 3, 2, 1. We are already after the tipping point that closing government is saying. We already got to the point that we need the help. And as all the government said, this community has very strong beliefs. So for them to seek help with the police that is part of the government they don't believe in, they have to do something. It means they're already after the tipping point. They don't have anything else to do. They try to do anything from the community, and now they are needing the help of the police. Let's talk about what we have. I don't want to talk with you about the community. I want to talk about the philosophy itself. But I will start with explaining to you that the problem is bigger than the community can handle themselves, and what is anarchism is, what the community looks like, because no one was talking about that. They just had some assumptions about anarchy at all. and how the organizational crime using drugs is worse for the community, and not only for the community, for the ideology of anarchism itself, um, and how it will affect the community. Let's start. What is anarchism? The main goal of anarchism is not only about the government. Yes, they're against the government, but they believe human beings can create a community that will work together without the government. They don't need hierarchy. They don't need any rules. They don't need someone to say them what is good or bad, because they believe that people can do it themselves. But now we see a community that affected by drugs from people outside of the community. I will explain to you why those drug dealers are not from the community and how they ruin it. First of all, that's an organizational crime. It means they have leaders, they have hierarchy, they have um, main roads, they have like planning or who is like the most affected group, and they use the other group and their people against themselves, because they use their philosophy, the beliefs that rules are not existing, or the government, or we are against the government, and use them to make them more drug addicts. Why? Because the community is not like I don't believe that what first opposition said about them being like a beautiful community with children. That's not the right the right characterization. Most of the time, the anarchists are not living in the same area. They're usually people in their like 20s, 30s, maybe 40s, but maximum. Most of them don't believe like in living in a big community with kindergarten and schools, but they live normal life. They have work, they have other places to be in, because they still need to earn money and work in the society. But if I explain to you how they look like, they usually are not the same. I will take it later. They're usually not the same as the opposition said, but the main group in the anarchy group are very young people that are easily affected. Most of them are in the rebellious time. They want to do something against the government. They want to do something against their parents or against the community in overall, and they are very easy to manipulate. That's why the organizational crime, which is not from the anarchists themselves, they're using this community and their beliefs against them. So if I am an anarchist that believes in all of what I said to you, in a big community that can define good from bad themselves. They don't need the government. They don't need the laws. And then I see someone that is organized crime, that manipulating my people, that going against my beliefs, because as I explained to you, the organized crime is as well as the government, because they have their own rules, they have their own anarchy, and they're affecting me. So they're coming to my community and affecting it. And I will explain to you why they're doing it. So first of all, they're using my agenda against me. It means they're using my freedom and my belief in a bigger community, in a community that everyone is equal in there, and we don't need someone to tell us what to do, and using it against ourselves. And the second point, they're pulling wrong people to our community. What it means? Because now they're connecting the name of our ideology with the drugs and putting them in the same basket. So now people that are looking just to rebel, or people that don't believe in the government, but they don't believe in the community, or they don't understand the main goal of anarchy in the end, which is a great community that can provide for themselves without the help of the government, or don't need any government at all because people can define it. So they're bringing people that we don't want in our community. People who want just to do drugs and sex and be violent without any rules. People that don't believe in the end goal of the community. They are not part of the community. They just want to have fun and enjoy their life as well as they want. And they're ruining the name of my community. But they're not only ruining the name of the community, they're ruining the name of the whole anarchy. Because when we're talking about anarchy nowadays, we think about the crazy people that like burn houses and burn cars because they just want to. So this is the name that was created during the years. If we will now cooperate with the authorities for one specific place, it will be better for our community. Yes, I will take first half.
Organized crime is much bigger than the community, is already accessible to the police. I am not sure why it is organized big crime that affects these neighborhoods and not small drug dealers, which is the likely manifestation.
The small drug dealers already can do something from inside my community. For example, I can say to someone, oh, they're in a neighborhood, I don't want them there. I can affect it myself. But there is a problem which is bigger. And I explain to you, like you said, they have strong beliefs. If they have such a strong beliefs and they still seek for help for the community, it means they have a bigger issue. It's not the small drug dealers; it's a big companies. And like I said in the info slide, you said that the main belief is that the police and the government are bad. If they go to the police and the government for help, it means that the problem is bigger than that. It's not the small part, it's the organized crimes and the drug deals that are getting inside the community and affecting my community and ruining everything I built around it. So it's not the small part, it's the bigger drug dealers. But I will leave it to my second speech. But I need to explain to you why the drugs are worse than for the anarchism philosophy at all, more than the corporation in a limited place with the police. Because my people, like all anarchists, believe that we want to create a community. And if someone is limiting our abilities to create a community, which is the drug dealers and the huge organizational drugs that use my community, I need to intervene, and even in the sake of my belief. Thank you.
Okay, I will begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Let's begin with a lot of rebuttals for second opposition. Then we'll move to rebuttals for first opposition. Then we'll talk about what did we extend in this debate. And lastly, about we will weight our case above everything else in the room. So first of all, what side opposition are telling us is what second opposition are telling us is a strange case in which we're not sure why a community that is regarding like communism inside of a liberal democratic country cares about what other people think about them. And we think that only by the fact that you are practicing communism and only by the fact that you're going against everything in your own country basically means that people kind of hate your ideology, right? And we think that people have a lot of opinions about communism anyways. Secondly, we think that there was some sort of a misrepresentation in both groups of opposition, and it wasn't mentioned in first government, that says that, look, the situation was very, very difficult a year ago. The cooperation with the police started a year ago. And ever since then, it has been an entire year, at least, I'm not sure when it started, but at least an entire year of cooperating with the police, right? And when we are telling you that they have taken care of this for at least 1 year, and in the second that a community that is this close and do not cooperate with the police ever, and in general is very against it, once they gave them a chance to get involved and to take things to their own hands, we believe that the police has already taken care of this, right? This is a very, very important characterization because both groups of opposition are talking as if the situation is so terrible on the streets and there are needles thrown on the streets and children can simply step on them. But we don't know why is it likely to believe that this is what the reality looks like if the police has been around for a year. So we don't understand why they should continue on cooperating with them, given that the police has already started taking care of it. First opposition are telling us how addiction is very bad, drugs is very bad, children being hurt because their parents are addicted, all of it is very bad. We are telling you that this cooperation has been going on for a year. This mean? We are telling you that it goes against their ideology and against their values to turn to the police that belongs to the country that they disagree with. They disagree with the values of the country that they live with, and that is why they are such a closed community. We do understand that the situation was this bad that they had to agree to cooperate. Not right now. And we are telling you that once the police has gotten a chance, we believe that they took care of it, at least to an extent. So what we do understand is that things now are better. And we don't have any reasons to buy the characterization of oppositions for why the situation there is so bad that an entire year of a police going on around them and taking care of all their addictions is not enough. We are telling you that we think that it is very likely that once a closed community allowed the police to take care of things, they took the chance and they made things so much better. Now, what is very important to understand is that for a small community to be able to survive, especially when it is this extreme, like a communism inside of a democratic liberal country, We are telling you that the most important thing for these people is the right here and right now, the short term, because they always have an enemy that is threatening in making their community falling apart. And if a year ago their enemy was drugs because people were literally dying on the street, now their enemy is the police standing on the streets while they don't see any reason for the police to keep on being there, right? Even if in 3 years after the police intervene in this in their community, even if in 3 years from now things might get worse again, like in 3 years after we stop cooperating with the police, even if things will get so much worse and be this drastic and extreme on their side of the house, like in 3 years or 4 years, I don't know, which we have no idea why would it happen. But more than that, Noam has explained to you why we think that after the police has taken things into their own hands, it is much more likely that it will be very more difficult for them to keep on being in such a bad situation drugs-wise. And we think that what matters to them is what happens right now. And we do think that currently what the people in the community are saying that the police is there for no reason. They took care of all the things that were very extreme. They took care of everything that was very, very dangerous and the people that were dying. But what are they still doing in my community if I don't believe in them? Now, what we are telling you is in a few seconds. What we are telling you is that it is very likely that the community will feel threatened by this police, right? We are telling you that they do not believe in the police. We are telling you that they have no faith in the government and everything that relates to the government in the country in which you're living with. Although First Opposition are trying to tell you, oh, but they want to cooperate with them because they live in this country. Yes, but we think that for a fact, if you live in such a close and extreme community in this country, it means that you 100% believe in it. Because if it is not like in a dictatorship when you are being forced to live under communism, like in the USSR and all of that, because you choose to live in this community inside of a country that doesn't force you to take it. Before I move on, I'll take first opposition.
The situation has been bad enough and is as likely to worsen again for a leaderless community to consider fighting once more against the massive loss of freedom due to enslavement to drugs and the merciless control of cartels and drug dealers.
But note that we are explaining to you why this is not the most important thing for a community. People that are willing to live in a communism, people that are willing to live in hunger, people that are willing to give up on their freedom and to give all of their money to the entire community and to split and share everything that they own, those are people that their ideology matters to them much more rather than crimes. Why? Because we see that for a fact they were not interested in letting the police stop it, Daniel. They were not interested in allowing the police to intervene in all the crimes that are going on in this neighborhood. Now, what is the interest of the community? To stay together. We are giving you two different reasons. And why do we believe that the community will fall apart? For two different reasons. The first one, because we believe that the police has an interest to make this community fall apart. And secondly, because we think that there will be division and people will hate each other to feel betrayed every single time that the police is onto someone, right? We think that that even before the cooperation with the police has begun, not everybody supported it because their ideology is against it, right? But even if some of them were convinced to be okay with cooperating with the police, now a year after they are already regretting it and they feel like it is a never-ending intervention, right? We think that this is harming their principles, and for all these reasons, please us.
I will start in 3, 2, 1. We have 3 questions in the debate. The first one is where I have more privacy and security. The second one is where the community stays safe. And the third one is where the ideology and the philosophy of anarchism is staying input. Let's explain what we have here. So the first government is saying to us that the privacy is hurt by the police. They are always in the streets. They are harming my freedom. But let me explain to you. They are giving you a picture of a policeman sitting inside of your house. I will say to you one thing. The police is not interested in everyone in the community. They want to stop the drug dealers. It means that they're not interested in the regular people in the community. They are not interested in interrogating you. They don't have the manpower to do so because they maybe have like 3 policemen that are patrolling the neighborhood, but the main goal for that is to protect the community from the drug dealers. They are investigating the drug dealers or the organized crime, and the privacy will not be hurt. Other point okay. The other point is that it's not mutually exclusive, because in a bad neighborhood, if the neighborhood is bad and we have drugs there and we have like prostitution and we have stealing or etc., so the police presence there will be much higher. If the police will not stay or will not cooperate with the police presence will just go even higher than it is right now, because we are cooperating and we are helping them. So if you are afraid for the privacy and if you are afraid of the security of the community, they need the police to leave, but they can do it ourselves by cooperating with them. If I am informing them about a drug dealer in my street, or I'm saying where I heard a new rumor that there is another street that they're selling drugs there, I can cooperate with them and then they will go there. They're not interested in me and they don't have the power for that. My second point is that the society where I live and I want to live in is hurt by those people. And my agenda is not only like to create a good life for myself, but it's also to create a community. Still, this anarchist community is living in a society and in a democratic country, and it depends on that. For example, if the community wants to do whatever they want, they still have to get money, they still have to live their regular lives. So they are depending on what other people think, and it's not the main thing for them, but it depends on how their philosophy looks like on the outside. And if everyone thinks that their philosophy bringing drug dealers and violent people to the community, it's creating them shame. First of all, they will be ashamed to say they're anarchists in their community outside of the anarchist community. For example, I'm going to work and I don't want anyone to know what is my ideology now. Maybe if I'm not joining that community, I will not go and join it now. So it makes me very ashamed of what I feel. Yes, first off.
Letting the police in may have been a mistake, it may have been beneficial, but we think that right now the continuous presence of the police is way more harmful to the ideals of the community than the drugs that are left that we already shown are reduced by communal efforts.
Okay, the police don't give a fuck about regular people that goes on the streets, okay? So if I'm the policeman and I don't see a presence of drug dealers in that street and I don't see violence on that street, I don't want to go there because I'm not interested. I need to work to do my work. The presence is there, but the cooperation is the important part, because the cooperation is not going like, oh, they're going in my street because they're scared of me. They're not scared of you. They don't care about you. If you are not like calling them actively and saying them, oh, they're a drug dealer in my street, they don't care. They don't have the manpower for doing that. So you cooperated. We did together a big operation, and we got them outside of our community. So now we have something special inside, like a connection, and we need to use that connection for our ideology. As I explained to you, the main thing in this debate is our belief in the community. Because in the anarchy community, there is nothing more important than your belief. Like your belief in complete freedom and complete outside of the government, in a future community that can provide for themselves without any hierarchy. So this is the main goal for you as someone is part of the community and as everyone inside of the community. But now that we are vulnerable because we saw all those people that getting inside of our organization, as I explained to you, which is like organized crime outside of the anarchy community, and they're trying and using and manipulating my own people, and they got inside and tried to hurt me. Now I'm more vulnerable because it is more likely that they will come back. Why? Because they already found a community that has like less limits and community which is free, and they believe in a common space for everyone, and they sharing anything. So this community is more likely to go back to drugs if those people will come back. And they will come back because they see a vulnerable community. They see a community that don't want to cooperate with police. And if they will cooperate in the future, for example, even if I now say, like you want us to say, we're not cooperating with you, but in the future I will need their help again because those drug dealers will come back because they still want like to, I will not take another, maybe I will take another POI. Yes, second half.
For the community, rejecting outside drug dealers is one of the easiest ways for themselves to decrease the drug use without using police.
But you don't remember that the anarchy community is not an organized community. They don't have leaders. They don't have people that like share with each other a lot of things. They believe in a place that everyone is equal. There is no one that leads me to believe in something. Maybe there are people that I like appreciate in the community, but they are not the same as leaders. They cannot say me what to do because this is part of the philosophy. And if I don't believe that they can say what to do for me, I will not believe even in my own like government, in my own like community that you are saying that we have, because we don't have it. We don't have it in the community. And as I explained to you, we're dealing not with small drug dealers. We're dealing with big organizations that are not part of the community. Most of them are coming from the outside because they're seeing how vulnerable is my community and how we are not organized the same amount we want to be, because like it's something in the future. So what I explained to you why the organization and the anarchy itself is the most important thing for anarchists and for the whole community. And if I don't want to cooperate with the government, but I have a problem that I cannot deal with by myself, as I explained to you, we cannot do it by ourselves. We need their help. Thank you.
Awesome. I will ask